Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. Hello and welcome to another episode of Friendly Friday, a weekly series where we take a look at budget-friendly standard or modern decks, and this week we're taking a look at Trigger Wizards in Standard, a Monoblue deck built around Naban, Dean of Iteration, a 2-mana 2/1 legendary wizard that says if a wizard entering the battlefield under our control causes a triggered ability of a permanent we control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So every single creature in our deck is a wizard with an enters a battlefield ability, which means that if we have Naban in play, that enters a battlefield ability will happen a second time for incremental advantage. Then for added consistency, we also have 4 copies of Panharmonicon, which essentially does the same as Naban, but also applies to artifacts and is not limited to wizards. But the advantage of Panharmonicon is that we can have more than one copy in play since it's not legendary unlike Naban, so we can have multiple Panharmonicons in play to get even more advantage, and it's also an artifact as opposed to a 2/1 creature, so it's less vulnerable to opposing removal spells. So let's take a look at the entire deck list, starting out with our 1-drops where we have 4 copies of Opt, a nice 1-mana instant that lets us scry 1 and then draw a card, so helps us smooth out our draw a little bit, and there might be turns where we have 1 mana left over, which is a perfect place for us to cast Opt, so we can use up all our mana every turn. Then of course we have our 4 copies of Naban. Then we have Silvergill Adept, a 2-mana 2/1 Merfolk Wizard. As an additional cost to cast the Silvergill Adept, we have to reveal a Merfolk from our hand, or we have to pay 3 generic mana, and then when the Silvergill Adept enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card, so that's a very profitable enter the battlefield ability to double up with Naban or Panharmonicon. And in order to support the Silvergill Adept, we have a total of 14 Merfolk in our deck, so that gives us a good chance of being able to reveal a Merfolk from our hand. Next up we have Merfolk Trickster, another Merfolk Wizard, double blue for a 2/2 creature with flash, so we can play it at instant speed, and then when the Trickster enters the battlefield we get to tap target creature an opponent controls, and it loses all abilities until end of turn, so that's a nice one to be able to tap down an opposing attacker before it gets a chance to attack, which buys us a lot of time, especially if we can tap 2 creatures down with Naban or Panharmonicon in play. Next up we have Champion of Wits, a 3-mana 2/1 Naga wizard. When the Champion of Wits enters the battlefield, we get to draw cards equal to its power, and then discard 2 cards. And we can also eternalize the Champion of Wits for 7 mana, where we get to make a 4/4 Naga zombie wizard. So we get to draw 4 cards and then discard 2 cards, so that actually gives us card advantage instead of just card selection. We do also have an Anthem effect for wizards in our deck, giving wizards +1/+1, so if we have that in play and then play a Champion of Wits, we get to draw 3 cards and then discard 2 instead of drawing 2, so that does actually give us some card advantage, which is very nice. Next up we have a great addition from M19 in Exclusion Mage, a 3-mana 2/2 human wizard. When the Exclusion Mage enters the battlefield, we get to return target creature an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So nice tempo play, combined with Naban or Panharmonicon, we get to bounce multiple creatures and set the opponent back a whole lot, while we can keep attacking with our smaller wizards. Then to help us round out our 3-drops, we have 2 copies of Watertrap Weaver, a 3-mana 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. When the Watertrap Weaver enters the battlefield, we get to tap down an opposing creature, and it's not going to untap in the opponent's next untap step, so it keeps the creature tapped down for an entire turn cycle. Then of course we have our 4 copies of Panharmonicon. Then we have 4 copies of Riverwise Augur, a 4-mana 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. When the Augur enters the battlefield, we get to Brainstorm, which means we get to draw 3 cards and then put 2 cards from our hand back on top of our deck. And it's also a nice ability to double up with Naban or Panharmonicon, since it actually nets us card advantage. And we also have 2 copies of Field of Ruin in our mana base to give us a shuffle effect, to potentially shuffle away 2 bad cards that we put on top of our deck that we don't want to draw the following turn. And we can also potentially put some cards back on the bottom of our deck using Opt, where we can scry a bad card on the bottom. And then last but not least, we have 2 copies of Naru Meha, Master Wizard, a 4-mana 3/3 legendary creature with flash, so we can also play it at instant speed. And when Naru Meha enters the battlefield, we get to copy target instant or sorcery spell we control, and we can choose new targets for the copy. And other wizards we control get +1/+1, so that's the Anthem effect I was talking about when discussing Champion of Wits. So we don't have a lot of instants and sorceries to go with Naru Meha, but we do have 4 copies of Opt, which actually combines quite nicely since it's so cheap. So for 5 mana we can cast Opt, with Opt still on the stack, we can cast Naru Meha with Flash, and then copy Opt to get an additional Scry 1 plus Draw 1, which works out quite well. And then of course the +1/+1 to all other wizards is also quite powerful when we're trying to beat down and tempo out our opponent. Then taking a look at the mana base, we've already covered the 2 copies of Field of Ruin. I would love to include more copies of Field of Ruin to synergize with the Riverwise Augur, but I think 2 copies of Scavenger Grounds are pretty important as well to give us more game against graveyard decks. And then we have 20 basic islands, which is the bare minimum to be able to consistently cast our Merfolk Tricksters on turn 2. Then taking a look at our sideboard, we have 2 copies of Negate against control decks, 3 copies of Omenspeaker, which is another wizard with a sweet Enter the Battlefield ability, which can come in against aggressive decks. Then we have the full 4 copies of Nimble Obstructionist, which is part of a transformational plan against control decks, where we can bring in more creatures with flash, and then rely on a whole bunch of counterspells out of the sideboard as well. And Nimble Obstructionist fits that plan perfectly as a 3-mana 3/1 creature with flash and flying, and the cycling ability can also be relevant against cards like Cast Out, for example. Then we also have the full 4 copies of Wizard's Retort, which turns into actual counterspell if we control a wizard. And then 2 copies of Academy Journeymage, which is great against the green decks, where we get an additional bounce effect for 4 mana if we control a wizard. And also the 3 power matches up nicely against opposing Vine Mares. So that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, we're on the play. And yeah, this hand seems okay. We even have the other Merfolk to go with our Silvergill Adept. So Island go. Turn on Opt. And we're probably just looking for a 3rd land. Yeah, I'll take a Field of Ruin. Alright, play Silvergill. Revealing Trickster. Panharmonicon's a good pickup too. Opponent on Esper. Alright, now that we found a second Naban, we're fine running the first one out there. So that works. Let's play a Naban. And say go. 3 mana for a Doomfall. It's gonna snipe a card out of our hand. Probably just a Panharmonicon. Yep. Alright, Exclusion Mage, not the best card against a control deck, which is why we have the transformational plan. So do we play Exclusion Mage anyway here? I think so. Keep the Merfolk Trickster for later. Champion of Wits was a nice draw, and I don't mind playing it out here. Alright, gets Assassin Scattered, it's fine. Attack for 4. So if we draw 3 more lands, we can Eternalize a Champion of Wits and get a lot of mileage out of that one. Opponent's got the turn 5 Teferi. Alright, time to attack the Teferi. Wish we had a Naru Meha here to pump up our creatures. So it's going to be bad if our opponent has Fumigate, but we still have the Trickster. And I think we just need to apply pressure here. So I'm fine playing an Exclusion Mage without value. Opponent cycles farmland. And if they do a Fumigate, we should be able to still finish off the Teferi. Unless our opponent also has a Seal Away. Opponent says go, so we could flash in Merfolk Trickster, but this likely means they have a Settler Wreckage instead of a Fumigate. And there we see a Glimmer of Genius end of turn. So they can untap 2 lands and still have Settle up. Is there a point in playing Trickster? I guess there still is. So we're only going to attack with 2 creatures into the saddle, which does help us ramp towards Champion of Wits at least, which is nice. But then we are not overextending into a Settle the Wreckage. I think we start by attacking. Send these 2 at the Teferi, since we have another Naban in hand. Interesting, it's just a Vraska's Contempt, alright. So the Teferi down, that's a big win. And I guess we opt main phase in case we hit a land drop. Watertrap Weaver seems bad. And Scavenger Grounds, sure. Alright, let's pass a turn. So if we draw land next turn, we can Eternalize Champion of Wits. And there's only Disallow that really prevents that from happening. Opponent's going to Field of Ruin Scavenger Grounds. Don't think we want to activate a response, since then we lose the Champion of Wits. And we would also lose our land, which we kind of need here. Interesting that they chose to target the Scavenger Grounds, probably indicates that they have a Torrential Giralk they want to leverage. Alright, we found the land. So I think I'm actually fine attacking with everyone, even if they have a settle, because if they do, then we for sure get to get the Champion of Wits back, although I suppose we don't have Naban in play yet, so we don't get to draw 8 cards. And maybe I should have just played Naban last turn as well to set this one up better, but that would have kind of destroyed us in the face of a potential Fumigate. So I think I'll just attack for 6 here. I imagine if our opponent had settled last turn, they also would have used it to save the ferry. Alright, so opponent's fine taking 6. So does that mean we play out Naban here? I guess it does, since I would rather have Naban countered than the Champion of Wits disallowed. Alright, that resolves, and I'll just say go here. Not gonna show them we have the 7th land, might alter their play. And a commit on Naban, fair enough. Alright, opponent just straight up casts Memory. Guess should have played our land here, but that's fine. So we lose a Champion of Wits in our graveyard too, but we drew some spicy ones, so I'm not too sad. And a Seal Away on one of our wizards, that's okay. We get to play Naru Meha end of turn here, and that's gonna hit our opponent pretty hard. Alright, so we've got a lot of options now. We can play Panharmonicon, play Champion of Wits, that's gonna draw us 1,000,000 cards approximately. It seems okay. Since we have the Naru Meha in play, so we get to draw 6 cards total here. And discard 4 of them. Alright, so 1 land can go, and I'm guessing a Watertrap Weaver can go. And then we get to put our opponent to 1. And then we still have great leftovers in the face of a Fumigate. And there's the ferry instead. So they can only have Settle, but we can play around that one pretty easily. Alright, sweet, so we got the game 1 against Esper Control. Time to enact our sideboard plan against control decks, which is to bring in our counter spells, or Nimble Obstructionists, and then take out the less exciting Exclusion Mage and Watertrap Weaver. This does lower our Merfolk count, so the Silvergill's going to be less reliable, but Silvergill on turn 5 is still fine. And then we need to make a couple more cuts. Merfolk Trickster is actually not bad, since it's a flash creature that goes well with our flash plan, so I don't mind keeping the Trickster. I could see cutting the Opts, since I don't really want to cut too many actual creatures, since that makes our Panharmonicon and Naban worse. But this seems fine. Alright, I think we can keep this one. I've got Naban, some nice creatures and some counter spells. I think I'm fine playing Naban here. Could get punished if our opponent has Fatal Push into Plains plus Histra Benalia, and they did have the Fatal Push. Suppose they could also have a Search for Ascanta here, but they don't. Alright, so now we get to end of turn Obstructionist, while keeping up all these counter spells, which is where we want to be. Opponent Essence Scatters. And now we get to play the Augur, get ahead on cards. And put back 2 islands. Suppose I should have put maybe back some counter spells in the face of a potential Doomfall, taking a look at our hand. But we have redundant counter spells anyway. Alright, let's start attacking. And then I think I'm fine playing Champion of Wits and discard some islands. Alright, opponent has a Seal Away. It's probably fine to let that one resolve. Keep our counter spells for more problematic cards. Alright, so 1 island can definitely go. Maybe just both islands. Yeah, I could see that. We do miss out on the opportunity to get closer towards eternalizing Champion of Wits, but all these counter spells are great, and we have 5 mana, which is enough for Obstructionist plus one of these counter spells. Another Negate is great, so let's get in there with the Champion of Wits. Say go. And I think I'm actually going to negate this Glimmer, which is very aggressive, but we just want to leverage this advantage of having all these cheap counter spells backed up with a clock. End of turn I'll cast Obstructionist. Resolves. Panharmonicon is also a good one, but we'll attack. Yep, it's gonna get negated too. Keep the Retort in hand for potential Gear Hulk. Alright, say go, and then hope that these 2 counter spells are enough to get there. Main phase Vraska's Contempt. Yep, let's fight over that one too. Alright, another champion is great too. Let's attack for 5. And we might actually discard Panharmonicon here, since it doesn't really fit our current plan. So Panharmonicon and Scavenger Grounds can probably go. Pass a turn. And I'm gonna be pretty conservative with this last Wizard's Retort. But our opponent just scoops it up, alright, so they couldn't handle all the counter spells. So on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. And yep, this hand seems very good. We've got Naban and Panharmonicon. We've got Silvergill with the Merfolk. So just need to find some extra lands and we're good. Not sure if we're gonna play Naban on turn 2 or if we're gonna play Silvergill on 2. Against a green deck, playing Naban on 2 is probably fine. And a turn 1 Implement of Ferocity, so it could be the blue-green Karn deck. Let's play Naban, say go. And then next turn we can draw 2 cards with Silvergill, which is pretty sweet. Alright, green-black, so they could have removal for Naban in that case. Instead, Ovia plus Augmenting Automaton, alright. Opponent stuck in Kaladesh draft. Not gonna complain. Let's just play this, revealing the Riverwise Augur. Draw 2 cards. And end of turn we can opt. And there's Winding Constrictor. That's a scary one. They can sacrifice the Implement right away if they want to put 2 counters somewhere. But if we can find our Exclusion Mages, those can do a lot of work against all those +1/+1 counters. And we're gonna target the Constrictor itself, that's interesting. End of turn we'll opt. Looking for something like Exclusion Mage. Don't think we need land 5. Find another Naban. Alright, I think we just take this turn off to cast Panharmonicon. Usually good things happen when we have Panharmonicon in play. And then we can Riverwise Augur, get 9 cards from our Brainstorm. Well, technically only 5. Syndicate Trafficker can also accumulate quite a few +1/+1 counters. I'm fine taking 4. Alright, land is not bad. So I think we just play the Augur. It's a bit early to cast our Tricksters. Alright, sweet, triple Brainstorm on the stack. And there's Exclusion Mage, so it doesn't really matter what we put back, only the last Brainstorm really matters. Alright, so just have the 1 land, definitely want to keep that. We can use Opt to put something on the bottom. I think I would rather keep second Naban over second Naru Meha. Put Panharmonicon on top, put Naru Meha on top. Play Island, and then we're just gonna bottom with Opt here, end of turn. Opponent's gonna sacrifice the artifact to put some counters on the Trafficker, that's okay. Another Implement. Okay. Opponent's got something going here. So if we were to double block the Trafficker, they can just sacrifice the Implement to make him indestructible, or they can just use the Implement's ability to put some more counters on the Trafficker. So either way, we could be taking quite a bit of damage here, but instead our opponent decides not to attack. So that's very conservative. We'll bottom Naru, draw another Panharmonicon, and Field of Ruin was a good draw, since now we can play Panharmonicon and have this Trickster tap down the opponent's entire team, essentially. Opponent can use Ovia end of turn, make an artifact. So I think we let them untap, and then upkeep we'll use a Trickster. That way they have to decide right now whether they want to use Ovia or if they just want to do something else. And this Exclusion Mage next turn is going to be pretty brutal. Especially if we draw another land, we can play third Panharmonicon, Exclusion Mage, bounce 5 things. And there's Ravenous Harpy, also some nice synergies going there. Alright, so no land 7 for the total blowout, but I think we're still fine playing Exclusion Mage here. So we're pretty likely to find a land with the Riverwise Augur. So I guess I'll play the Augur into Exclusion Mage. Alright, so we'll just decide on the last brainstorm to make this go quicker. Alright, so we definitely want to keep a land. So probably doesn't matter too much what we put on top. Alright, let's play a land, play Exclusion Mage, bounce Harpy, Constrictor, Trafficker, and I think I'll go with Ovia over the token. And then we get to attack for 8. They replay Constrictor. Second Constrictor. That's all fine. So how much power do we have in play? 12. So Trickster should do it here. Alright, let's get in there. Alright, sweet, so we're up against the black-green +1/+1 counters. I think I like our main game plan. I could use Journeymage as an additional bounce effect. It's usually pretty good against those strategies. And what don't we like? Probably can shave 2 opts when in doubt. Yep, let's try this. Alright, do we keep the triple Panharmonicon draw? I mean, yeah, I guess we do. Just need a 3rd land for champion, we're on the draw, and then we can discard an additional Panharmonicon if we don't want to keep all 3. Alright, turn 2 Reassembling Skeleton. Goes well with our Harpy plan, I suppose. Play land, say go. Well, we better find a 4th land here, since I've got quite a few 4s in hand. Maybe should have got a few of our 4-drops, like Naru Meha is probably not necessary in this matchup. Sparring Constructs, alright. Exclusion Mage is a nice pickup, but we're just gonna champion here, make sure we can find land 4, and then maybe discard a Panharmonicon or 2. Alright, so I think we just ditched 2 Panharmonicons here. Could also discard Naru Meha, which doesn't necessarily do much here. Alright, let's discard Naru. So next turn, definitely playing Panharmonicon first. And then we'll see if we want to Augur or if we want to get greedy, play another Panharmonicon or Naban. I think I'm fine taking 2 here. And alright, start making sense now. Demon of Catastrophes, 6/6 Flying Trample, and they had to sacrifice a skeleton. Doesn't match up very well against our bounce effects, luckily. Yeah, I think I'll play a Panharmonicon here. Take the hit from the demon, and then next turn we can go Naban into Exclusion Mage, bounce their board. Seems okay. Could get wrecked if our opponent has a discard effect for Exclusion Mage, but so be it. And now I think I'm fine blocking the Sparring Construct, since we're bouncing the demon next turn anyways, and the champion's not doing much for us at the moment. Opponent says go. And they're gonna naturalize the Panharmonicon on our upkeep. Okay. Still have our second Panharmonicon and Naban, but we don't really need the doubling effect on this particular turn. So they can just get back Skeleton, replay their Demon, so it's not a permanent solution, but it is a pretty good temporary solution at least. So next turn we probably have to Augur to look for an additional answer to the Demon, since we can only afford to take 1 more hit. But between Trickster, Exclusion Mage, Journeymage that we boarded in, Watertrap Weaver, we have a lot of answers. Suppose I play the Field of Ruin first in case we draw into a Trickster. And there we go. Alright, so it doesn't matter what we put back on the first Brainstorm, and probably won't need to draw the Panharmonicon anytime soon. Suppose we put Naban back on top. It's kind of the consideration whether there's a chance our opponent makes us shuffle our library, or if they have a discard effect we want to protect our hand from. Probably doesn't matter too much. So we'll just say go, Trickster the demon before it gets to attack, and then we should be in okay shape, since we'll get to see a lot of extra cards with Champion of Wits. Ravenous Harpy seems fine. And a Sparring Construct. Beginning of combat. Play Trickster. Tap down Demon and probably the Harpy. Alright, so I think we Panharmonicon into Champion, draw the maximum amount of cards, and then we'll take a hit for a turn, but then the turn after we'll likely have an answer for the Demon once again. Seems fine. Opponent takes it. Suppose there's a small chance we could die here for opponent, like plays Winding Constrictor, puts a bunch of counters on their Harpy, but there's not much we can do about it, since we know, I guess we could technically draw out of it by just playing the Champion of Wits first, but then we don't maximize the chances of finding an answer for next turn. Alright, Merfolk Trickster we probably want to keep. Opponent does sacrifice a construct end of turn, so they can hit us for 9. It's actually going to be tricky since we don't have any other card draw at the moment. So we actually have to top deck another answer for the following turn, and now that they played another construct, they actually have lethal. Since they can sack another construct, put 2 counters on the Harpy. But yeah, had we played Champion of Wits first, I don't think we would have found a Trickster, so we would have been dead anyway. Alright, looks like our opponent misclicked, so I'll concede. So we'll go to game 3 here. Do we change anything? I don't think we do. I like our setup. The Demon can be an issue, but we have so many answers to it. Watertrap Weaver especially is a great one, and if they don't have a reassembling skeleton to sacrifice, then they can't keep replaying it easily. So we'll be on the play. And yep, the sand seems great. Turn 1 Opt, turn 2 Naban. Turn 3 Silvergill, revealing Riverwise Augur. So the Opt is mainly going to look for more islands and bounce effects. So are we interested in Exclusion Mage? I think we are. And I think I'm okay playing Naban first here, since we could use extra card draw with Silvergill next turn. Automaton gets in for 1, we'll take it. And a Winding Constrictor, alright. So good start from the opponent as well. I think we just adapt here, hang on to the Exclusion Mage for now. And I guess we'll reveal the Augur, gives away less information than the Trickster. So we get to draw 2 cards. Alright, sweet. So next turn we can Augur, or we can play Exclusion Mage to reset the board. Reassembling skeletons, fine. And Ovia, alright. Opponent does attack with the Constrictor. We could actually double block Adapt plus Naban, since we have another Naban. And Constrictor is a scary card, but it doesn't really do anything on the board currently. So maybe I just trade Adapt for the Automaton, since we don't want to take too much damage. Doesn't really block the skeleton very well either, or attacks into it very well either. So could make a case for double blocking, but I think I'm gonna Riverwise Augur, so I'm gonna want the Naban in play. Alright, let's Augur. We also have double Field of Ruin to shuffle potentially. And Panharmonicon is exactly what we want. So I think we'll put back double Naban. And then there's a chance we sacrifice Field of Ruin on upkeep, but more likely we just play a Panharmonicon. So we're fine taking a bit of damage while we're setting up, since our late game should be more powerful than the opponent's. Is this a Demon? It is. Alright, so our opponent's definitely going off here. Suppose we can also Champion of Wits plus Merfolk Trickster next turn, or we can double block now. They only get to kill Naban, and then we get to Naban plus Exclusion Mage. Reset their board. That actually feels pretty good too. Buys us a lot of time, and we have a redundant Naban incoming. So they do kill Naban. So now we get to Naban plus Exclusion Mage, get in for 2. And that's gonna buy us so much time, since they Need to spend the mana to get back Reassembling Skeleton, and then replay the Demon. And in the meantime we can drop Panharmonicon, start drawing a million cards. And we already have Trickster to tap down the Demon for a turn. Opponent setting up again with Ovia and Automaton, getting back Skeleton end of turn, that's fine. I think we want to hit our land drops more than anything here, so I might actually Augur. Alright, so one land can definitely go on top, and then probably just a Panharmonicon. So I actually don't hate attacking with everyone here. And if they block Naban, we'll play another one. Opponent just takes it, we'll say go. And there's a skeleton coming back. There's a demon. So we could Trickster end of turn here, tap down two of the opponent's creatures, that might be okay. As we see Sparring Construct as well. That's probably fine, get in some damage. The Champion of Wits should be able to find us more bounce effects. So tap Demon for sure, and then I guess we tap the Sparring Construct, since we don't want them to block with it. And then we untap, and then we probably Champion of Wits first, before we attack, in case Naban dies in combat. And try to look for another Trickster or bounce effect. Alright, Trickster works. So we'll discard Panharmonicon and land. Discard Island and Champion of Wits. Go to combat. Attack with everyone. And then we have Naban plus Trickster. If they block Naban, they just take it. Trickster should be able to tap down Demon. Plus something else, and then we have lethal on the way back. Could play around like a Bonder's Last Reckoning, take the hit, play Trickster end of turn. Seems unlikely. And this is the Desperation attack, or our opponent does have the sweeper effect. Alright, another demon instead. That's fine. And the Sparring Construct didn't put a counter anywhere because of the Merfolk Trickster. It lost its ability to move the counter. So let's get in there. Alright, sweet, we got there. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. And this hand seems great. We've got our Adept with a Merfolk, Naban to double up. That's where we want to be. Turn 1 tapped Canyon, so red-black. Could play Naban turn 2, Silvergill turn 3. Think we try it. Chain Whirler's gonna be bad news no matter what with this hand. And there's a chance they just play a creature or a Heart of Kiran on turn 2, and then we get to play Adept drawing 2 cards instead of just 1. Alright, it's a Grixis deck instead. And there is Heart of Kiran, alright, that's okay. So we get to play Silvergill, revealing Trickster, which is also one of our better cards against Heart of Kiran, since we can tap it down after it gets crewed. And more Silvergills are good draws. Alright, let's hope to dodge a Chain Whirler here, which could definitely still be in our future. Yep. They always have it. So what's our plan now? We can Silvergill revealing Trickster, and then use Trickster to tap down Heart of Kiran. Well, another Naban's a good draw at least. Definitely not playing out Naban in the face of a second Chain Whirler, and I would rather prevent the 4 damage from the heart here. So is this where they play Nicol Bolas? Gotta keep that curve going right. And a Dragon's Horde, alright, so their opponent is deep into dragons. If I Trickster the Chain Whirler, then they crew Heart of Kiran, but I would rather take 3 than 4, so I guess I'll let this happen. Chain Whirler gets in. I could also play Trickster and double block. Is that something I'm interested in? Maybe. Although it would be bad if our opponent had a removal spell here, so maybe I should have thought about this a little more. I think that's still better than keeping the Chain Whirler around. Alright, that worked. So now we can Naban plus Champion of Wits. Take a look at a lot of extra cards. No actual card advantage, but still useful. Alright, so do we keep another Naban? Don't think we do. And then I can get rid of either Exclusion Mage or Naru. I'm leaning towards Exclusion Mage here. Don't really want to bounce Chain Whirlers or Nicol Bolas's. And there's a Glorybringer. Triggers a Dragon Sword. Yep, and that's probably going to kill Naban. So the card we're most looking for is probably Panharmonicon, since that one doesn't die to the Glorybringer at least. Merfolk Trickster does something, I guess. So I'm probably down to just be aggressive here, since a long game is not looking that great for us. So I'll play Naru, attack for 3. We have Merfolk Trickster to tap something down. I like this other Glorybringer, which is bad news. The annoying part is that they still have Heart of Kiran, so if we tap down Glorybringer, they still get to crew the Heart of Kiran. So Heart of Kiran does get crewed. We're gonna get pretty close to killing our opponent, putting them to 6, but then we're gonna get wrecked on the way back. So we're probably dead here. Can't really think of much that saves us. So let's Augur. Watertrap Weaver, I guess, gets pretty close to helping us. Definitely better than a bounce effect for the Glorybringer. So we have a small chance here to get there, if they don't have a way to crew the Heart of Kiran. They draw a card with Dragon Sword, but with 5 cards in hand, it's pretty likely that this Heart of Kiran gets crewed, or they play another hasty threat. How about the Demanding Dragon? Yep, it's gonna force us to sacrifice a creature. They can crew the heart and we'll be dead. But I guess we'll go through the motions. Champion of Wits in the graveyard is also a good deal. Alright, our opponent sees the line. So got pretty close, but not close enough. Alright, so let's go to sideboards, where I think we want the Retort to counter all those expensive dragons. And what do we take out? Exclusion Mage looks pretty weak, but maybe we still want to keep 2 copies in the deck as insurance. And I could see cutting Naru as well. Doesn't match up very well against the opponent's Glorybringers and spot removal spells in general. So I think I'll try this setup. Would like to be on the play. Can't keep a 0-lander. Well, this doesn't have any blue mana, so we're pretty likely to find an island by our second turn. Don't think we're winning on 5, so I'm gonna keep, but we can easily never draw lands and lose. Yep. Alright, there's an island at least. Think we're desperate enough that we want to play Naban before Silvergill. Don't expect Naban to stick around, but if it eats an Abrade, then at least Panharmonicon doesn't eat an Abrade. Alright, so Naban's still alive. Is this where they drop Chain Whirler and crush our hopes and dreams? It sure is. Alright, let's play a Silvergill. Maybe it was too ambitious to play Naban there, but I think we needed all the help we could get. So we don't have double blue yet for the Wizard's Retort. Okay, don't understand the second main Chain Whirler. They essentially gave us the opportunity to chump block the first one. I think we bounce the Chain Whirler anyway here, since can't really afford to take all that damage. So our draw definitely didn't go according to plan. We're in a spot where our opponent can resolve a 5-drop, and we don't get to convert the Wizard's Retort, and we're already behind on board. It's only gonna get worse from here. This is a Nicol Bolas. Think I'm just discarding Naban, since with a Chain Whirler in the opponent's hand, there's no way we get to stick it. So if we play Panharmonicon, Opponent replays Chain Whirler, we take 1 down to 11, take 4 down to 7, chumping the Chain Whirler. Then we can play Augur, but then we're dead on board to just a double Chain Whirler plus Nicol Bolas. But we're probably dead anyway, so we might as well go for the greediest play, which gives us a chance to still get there. But if our opponent has anything besides lands, then we're also dead, so might as well give it a try. And there's a Glorybringer instead. Yep, definitely not beating that. So that's 11 damage. And now we're dead to just our opponent casting a Chain Whirler next turn. Alright, so had a bit of a rough draw in the second game. Got pretty close in the first one despite the Chain Whirlers ranking us. Guess we'll play an Augur just to draw some cards before clicking the concede button. Those are some nice cards. Alright, I'm gonna end the game with as many cards in hand as possible. Alright, so that's gonna do it. I wanna thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this gameplay, and as always, have a nice day. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached, we will release an additional weekly series. So if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.